Monsters and Godzilla, Zilla, A. And Blue Smith. Wait, I mean, Will Smith is blue. Also, Oscar-winning actress Octavia Spencer gets cray-cray. That and more on today's episode of The Real Review. So stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television.
You did it, man.
I did it. Yes, I said it all correctly, guys.
Nice.
I said it correctly. Man. Anyways, everybody, I am here with Joel. Oh my God. Cunningham.
Oh, come on. That's like my least favorite line. That's probably why you're saying that.
Yes, it is.
Like my least favorite.
You were my inspiration.
Yeah. Well, overall, I mean, that one line of dialogue set my expectations a lot lower, but we'll see how they turned out.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Who am I?
They set my expectations very low. I am here with Matt, the voice of the Titans. Hey.
Ooh, the voice of the Titans.
Yeah.
I like that.
Kind of like a yeah, it's like
really
noise, yeah.
If I could make those noises, I'd be making if I could make those noises with my mouth,
yeah,
I would make a lot of money.
Probably.
Then Hollywood wouldn't have to create these weird soundscapes.
They would just
hire me. Yeah, exactly.
He can be the voice of the monster.
See what happens, man.
I forget what's his name. Andy whatever name. He's the motion capture guy.
Andy Serkis.
Yeah, and you could be the voice monster guy.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
I'm down. Hollywood, hire me.
There you go.
I can make my calendar wide open.
Shoot us an email, Real Review Media.
Do it.
To book Matt. I'm his booking agent. I take 10%.
Speaking of Real Review, Joel.
Yes.
Why don't you tell everybody how they can get connected with us?
Sure.
Let's start with that today.
Yeah. So there's a number of ways to get connected to the podcast. We have our Facebook, which is facebook.com/Real Review Media. We're always posting tons of content, of trailers, different posters and things like that up there. And we would love to get connected. And occasionally we're announcing contests. And that's always one of the best places to get connected to those contests.
I think we're going to do another one for June.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
We've got some big films coming out.
Yeah.
So, Spider-Man's coming out pretty soon here, and then there's some stuff at the end of the year. But yeah, we'll probably do another one pretty soon here.
Yeah.
So get connected with us on there. Additionally, we have our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. We always post all of our content up on there as far as the podcasts that are coming out, so you can get connected on whatever platform you're using. Additionally, we have our Instagram and Twitter, which are both at Real Review Media. And last but not least, despite the adpocalypse, I guess that's going on right now, youtube.com/The Real Review.
Yeah.
If you want to watch some of our content that we got going up there, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think we'll be totally
nothing
fine.
Inappropriate going
we
on.
will be totally fine, you guys.
I should actually, last but not least, we would love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on things that we're talking about and all the things that are going on with film and media in your world. So shoot us an email, realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Right. Good job. Well done.
I did it.
Also, you did do it. Yeah. Hey, I like how encouraging we are to each other today.
It's good.
It's
Usually
great.
we're not. So it's
hey,
good.
you know what? It's we encourage each other in a poking at each other kind of way.
We encourage critical thinking. How about that?
Critical thinking in a friendly manner? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that.
Positive feedback.
Anyways, if you are new to the show or unfamiliar with what we have going on, or if you've heard this before, you're going to hear it again. I'll do it real quick.
All right.
The way that we do things here in The Real Review, Joel we kind of has a difference of opinion than I normally approach film and how I like to watch films and those kinds of things. He's a little bit more critical, analytical, dives into the details, and a lot of those things maybe even bother him more than they might bother me.
Yes.
Some may say he's negative, and mainly when I say some, I just mean me.
Yeah.
But then I kind of approach it from hey, was that fun? Did it meet some emotional criteria that I have set for myself? Was it something that I feel hey, this is rewatchable and it's going to be super great in the future?
Yeah.
And I might be a little bit more positive just because of that, but we kind of combine that together in our reviews, and that's what you get. The Real Review, yo.
There it is.
There it is, guys. So, hey, we got a few movies that we want to talk about. I want to start off with Godzilla, King of the Monsters, okay? Let me break this down real quick, and then I'm going to talk to you about something. So, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the cryptozoological agency Monarch faces off against a battery of god-sized monsters, including the mighty Godzilla, who collides with Mothra, Rodan, and his ultimate nemesis, the three-headed king Ghidorah. Directed by Michael Dougherty, also written by Michael Dougherty and a number of other people, but it stars Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, Millie Bobby Brown, Ken Watanabe, Z Zhang, Bradley Whitford, Sally Hawkins, Charles Dance, a lot of other people. So Joel, you know what? And this is funny. This is probably one of the earliest conversations I think when we were talking about movies and started talking about movies together a little bit more was the 2014 Godzilla that came out. You and I were big fans of that movie.
Oh yeah, loved it. Visually, it was way beyond what I figured they were going to try for. I was like, Godzilla, you think of the original Matthew Broderick, well, not the original, but like the original American, Matthew Broderick one, and how cheesy that was, and it was like a cheap spin-off of Jurassic Park.
Right.
And they did just so much good stuff with that one. They grounded it in a human story, but a one that made sense. They did visually great things. The action, although some people were really frustrated with the fact they didn't have enough Godzilla in it.
I was okay with it.
I was okay with it because it really put in perspective, at least for that first film, the monstrosity of these creatures and Godzilla.
And it really like makes those moments really special too.
Yeah.
So the thing I remember most about that movie, I saw it in IMAX, and there's the scene in that 2014 Godzilla where, you know, they show up on Hawaii and then one of the Mutos like blows up something and they're in the airport hangar and it's just a huge panning tracking shot.
Right.
Everything's exploding and then all of a sudden Godzilla's foot stomps down and it pans up and he's like roaring at the screen. I was like, it was incredible. It was an incredible thing.
Yeah, I think the best word that I could explain the first one would just be like epic. You know, you do so many of these monster movies and this one's more like that. I'm not going to say negative or good things bad about it yet, but that first movie did such a good job with just making you feel like you were on this ride of if this creature were really to come out of the ocean. I mean, even the very beginning and the heartfelt connection you're getting with these characters and that sense of loss and what that means for them. Yeah. Whereas with the other ones are so big, you kind of lose sight of that.
Gareth Edwards did a really good job making you feel like you're kind of like there looking up at Godzilla a lot, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Gave you that scale, that sense of like, oh my gosh, this thing is massive.
Right.
So
Very
that was
surprised.
really, really cool. So let me start off with this new one, Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is technically the third film in a shared universe where you have Godzilla 2014 and you also have Kong, which I think 2017, Skull Island.
They're creating a small universe
within
this world of monsters.
Right. And I thought Kong was okay. Yeah. But this one I liked, not nearly as much as the 2014. There were elements that I didn't like, but let me just start off with overall, I liked it, but it wasn't as awe-inspiring to me as I felt the previous one was. Although, let me say this, there are some really magnificent shots in this movie.
There's a couple of them that I really liked.
I was like, man, that is an incredible shot of just stuff happening. I was like, wow, that is like, it harkened back to when I felt that way about the first Godzilla. Yeah. And I think Michael Dougherty, he was trying really hard to maintain that. I don't think he has the natural skill that Gareth Edwards does to show those scale things, but I think he's aware of it, and I think he tried really hard to try and get it to that point. So,
the shots in this one were the epic shots of, you know, Godzilla when they were.
Rodan had one of my favorite shots.
Those felt good.
Yeah.
But there was fewer of them.
Yeah.
As far as the cool thing about the original one was there was a lot of the shots were almost like a first person perspective. You felt like you were like in the chair.
Yeah.
And the best example is the halo jump that they do.
Yeah. That
scene and that shot was just so beautifully orchestrated with music and the visual style and then putting you in like the person's visuals to feel like, holy cow, I feel like I'm jumping into this crazy disaster. And I thought that was there was a couple shots where you have kind of like Godzilla like coming at the screen and things like that, and a couple of the monsters where you felt that sense of like, wow, this is power, this is strength and chaos kind of coming at you. But overall, it was probably maybe like you said, like 2 shots or so that it was really felt.
There's one of Ghidorah that might even be in the trailer that was really, really awesome. Yeah. And then Rodan had one of my other favorite ones.
Yeah, there's one of Godzilla where he's first interacting with the humans, sort of. Yeah. That I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go with some more things here. Without addressing the script and what was there for the actors to do, I thought the actors did a good job acting. Yeah. They had, with what their material was, I thought they brought everything, and I don't feel like anybody really phoned it in.
No, I was concerned with Millie Bobby Brown a little bit just because I haven't seen her in anything outside of her Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought she did an excellent job with what she was given in the character.
For sure. All the stuff in the movie is not any negativity that I have towards the movie is not because the actors. It might just be because the way some of the scripting and story elements were. But I think the acting was great. I thought the visuals for them were better than I was anticipating them to be. Yeah. Honestly, I remember watching the trailer being like, why does this look funny to me? It looks weird. It doesn't look like it's like, living, breathing Godzilla and monsters, Yeah. But it was a lot better in the context of the movie. Maybe that was just what was missing for me.
Yeah. I think the monsters in this movie were more kind of your stereotypical like monster of the day type fare.
Yeah.
They felt that way. Not as an extreme, like it wasn't to the point where it was bad.
Yeah.
But all the monsters just kind of felt like, okay, well that's a big Godzilla, that's a big Rodan, and it wasn't bad. I think my favorite was probably Mothra. Yeah. As far as the visual style and kind of what they did with that.
I thought the sound effects for Mothra were really good.
Yeah.
Actually, sound design was actually pretty good this whole movie.
That's what I was going to say. All the way through the sound design and even the music at times was really pretty solid.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the music actually harkened back. It reminded me of the first Godzilla and Kong a little bit. It had some like tribal elements. Like it was really cool.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I think overall, the story was kind of where it started to fall apart for me more. I don't know if we want to
100%
move into kind of the negatives a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the first one had a very simple story in a lot of ways. There was a lot of complexity and depth that kind of were underlining and behind, like the story of where Godzilla came from and why he woke up and what he was going to do, and the monsters in general. There was a lot of depth behind that, but it was really a human story about one man and his family and a couple people and trying to sort of stop the apocalypse. Or help Godzilla, if you will. This movie went in a lot of different directions with a lot of different characters. And I think it's not that I got lost. I saw the movie twice.
Oh, cool.
Not necessarily because I really wanted to. The first time I definitely wanted to see it. The second time it was more of like, well, a couple people are going and I'm kind of on board for it.
Yeah.
But you really start to feel like, okay, there's a lot of different competing interests, a lot of competing personalities.
Yeah.
And it makes the film feel a little bloated and a little kind of like...
Character-wise, I think that's the only reason why it is bloated,
to
be honest. I think there's just too many people that they're throwing at you.
Yeah, I mean, even to the point, and I don't know why they did this or what the reason for this was behind this, maybe production elements or something, but... they kill off one of the characters very abruptly. Yeah. And you kind of are like left like, what? Oh, they're dead. What happened with them?
But here's the
Why?
thing is you don't feel for it because you don't know these people.
Because you don't know them and there's so many other characters that you're connected with in the story. It's like a moment like that could have had a much more epic feel if the cast had been a little bit more tight. Yep. And I don't mean tight as far as acting, I mean tight as far as volume of characters.
Yeah, they could have like condensed like 3 or 4 people into one character maybe.
Yeah. And so I kind of got lost. It was like every character needed to fill a different niche. You know what I mean? They wanted a couple of them to be funny, but not ridiculously funny. Right. They wanted a couple to be more like the action characters and some of them more like the science characters, Right. So, I don't know.
So here's my negative thought with this, and this is where I think the 2014 Godzilla excels. Like, there's tragedy that happens in this movie and then in the 2014 one as well. The difference is this movie, you don't really get to spend any time with the characters before tragedy strikes, right?
Very, very, very briefly. Like the first 5 minutes of the movie, you get like a little intro with
barely
the character.
anything.
Right.
So, but in 2014,
you
get some character relational, and it makes the opening of 2014's Godzilla so heartbreaking.
Right.
And I was just like, man, that is heavy, And then you feel emotionally invested through the rest.
Right. You kind of get that twice. You get it at the very beginning, and then they do the flash forward.
Yeah.
And then you get it again a second time to reconnect you with the different characters and stuff.
Right. So this one, I felt like I didn't have any time. So everybody's like reeling from this loss, this devastating thing, and you're kind of, and I was just kind of like, I'm supposed to feel sad right now, but I don't because I don't know these people. So I'm meeting this guy. He's just grumpy McGrumpy pants. Yeah. Meeting this lady. She's just like kind of off, a little bit weird maybe, but it
was abrupt to me. I mean, I'm going to kind of spoiler it, but you jump to a shot of like a mom lady crying.
Yeah.
and after you've had this sort of intro, but you never actually saw the loss.
Right.
You saw the precursor to the loss,
Right.
but you never actually experienced it with the character.
Yep.
And so you're just kind of left feeling like, oh, well, that's sad. I feel bad for them.
I feel bad. Like,
but then you jump right into like, okay, here's monsters.
Yep.
So you're again, and then it's like jumping from one character to another, and then one character gets offhandedly killed, and they're only briefly introduced, and then later you get another. So it's kind of just jumping around from thing to thing to thing, and it's like set piece to set piece to set piece.
Yeah.
With all these characters.
There's a mini twist that happens too with one of the main characters, and I leaned over because I went with my dad, and I was like, wait, why did that person just do that? Like that didn't make sense to me. And then they had to explain it, but I was a little just confused in the moment.
It was confusing to me in regards to the motivation for that move.
Yep.
Logically in their world, in their perspective, why they did it, why they were allowing certain things to take place made sense, but their character didn't really
Mm-hmm.
seem to have that kind of motivation to be willing to do what they were doing.
Right.
I mean, millions of people are dying.
I know, millions.
And it's not like either way, even if their plans went the right direction, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
That was very likely to happen
It's
either
just
way.
crazy. Anyway, so some of the story was just a little bit ridiculous. Let me just say that in one element, the other part, they wanted you to have more emotional investment, but I didn't feel like it earned. So that's kind of my main criticism for the movie.
Yeah.
But I will say I did enjoy a lot of the fighting.
The fighting was good.
Yes.
I mean, the actual monster fights were fun.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, so what I need in a good fight in general, and they kind of tend to lose this with monster fights. Yeah. Well, they had this in the 2014 one.
Yeah.
The stakes need to rise. Like you need to feel like there's a back and forth with the monsters.
Yeah.
And this one kind of tended to just be like monsters clashing and hitting each other and biting. And it's like, I don't even have any sense of real like damage that's being done or if this is hurting them or if there's like stakes that are rising.
Yeah.
There was a couple scenes of that later on in the film where it felt better. Like, okay, they're actually like the stakes are rising. They need this. But for the most part, it was just kind of like two giant monsters bashing each other, or three or four, however many were in the shot.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I feel that same way. I don't think the actual fight scenes were as beautifully helmed as they were in the 2014 Godzilla.
Yeah.
But their intro, I heard someone mention it this way, but their introductions were pretty epic.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the introductions.
Yeah.
I think in the actual overall design, I talked about how they kind of just look more just like everyday Saturday morning monsters, but they were still good.
Yeah.
They looked realistic.
So let's do this because I found it really interesting. This is one of those really unique movies, or this happens every now and then. It's not as common as you might think, but Rotten Tomatoes has this movie at 40%.
Yeah.
The audience score is 85.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot, you know. I think the audience is going to enjoy a summer monster movie, and that's kind of what they're getting, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's more successful in the theaters.
Yeah.
As far as that is concerned, I mean, it made 50 million or so. Domestic made a lot more money overseas, but it's already made its production budget back, so it's gold.
That's a huge element as far as the numbers.
Yeah.
Not the review score, but the numbers as far as return. Monster movies tend to do really well. American monster movies tend to do really well in foreign countries.
Yeah.
And I think we like it here because, one, it's a familiar property. It's a sequel to a property that we really did enjoy. It's got a lot of faces of a lot of different actors of different, ethnicities and all different shapes and sizes. And so there's something for everybody to kind of connect with. And the story, I would put it at an okay level. It's not bad.
Yeah.
There's elements of it that are bad, but there's elements of it that are pretty good as well. There's touching-ish moments that happen. And so I think it like slides in safe. That's the way I would say this movie. It was safe.
Yeah, it was a safe.
It didn't really take a lot of risks or anything like that, except for, I guess the one area you could say that it took some risks very minorly was delving into the whole, I'm not going to go there necessarily, but the whole climate change debate and kind of what's going on with that. That's where maybe it took a bit of a risk. But
I always think of Detective Pikachu now when I think of climate change.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If you don't believe in climate change after seeing that, I don't know what will make you believe in it.
Well, it's kind of like, that would be the one area where they would potentially like ruffle some feathers. But I think it was so underlining into the story that I don't think even people on either side of that, it's going to weigh that too heavily into their judgment on the film in and of itself. Although I will say one thing that was funny to me is that the main driving purpose, these are monsters that their sole like purpose in their world is to be the most dominant, effective killing machine, and that's what gives them the ability to rule and reign.
Right.
But we're relying on them for like protection. So it was just weird in my mind. It's
we're kind of relying on just one though for protection.
Yeah, and more than like protection, like these are the ones that are going to like do good things for the earth.
Right.
I'm trying to not spoil it too much, but it's just the dichotomy of that is funny to me. It's like literally this is like if this were a human, this would be like a tyrannical ruler.
Yeah.
But because they're a monster creature, we're like, oh, well, this
is an animal. Yeah,
it's like
kind of how they describe it.
We should respect these animals.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was a funny dichotomy. But,
so, Joel,
what
would you rate this thing?
I struggled really hard with this.
I'm struggling with this one a little bit too, actually, to be honest with you.
It's on the border of C plus B minus.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
What you got?
I think it was just good enough to get an 80.
That's what I'm at. 80.
All right, there you go.
80.
Yeah, sure enough.
Because I was like, where do I put it at? Because the first one was like 89, like 90 for me. I really like the first one.
I think what honestly did it for me was some of the like Ken Watanabe type stuff. He did such an amazing. He's always so good on screen, and just his purposefulness with this was so good. And I think the acting was just good enough. The connection between Dr. Emma Russell and Mark Russell's characters, Kyle Chandler and Vera Farmiga, their connection in the film was strong enough and good enough that it kind of helped move it forward as well.
Yeah.
But,
that's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tiesies.
Tied
it up.
Yeah, 80. Cool. So let's dive into one that came out the week before. We just didn't get a chance to review. And we're going to talk about Aladdin. Okay, so Aladdin.
Mr. Aladdin.
Yes. A kind-hearted street urchin. It's a weird street urchin, a street rat. That's what they call him, right?
Street rat.
Yeah. Street urchin and a power-hungry grand vizier vie for a magic lamp that has the power to make their deepest wishes come true. Directed by Guy Ritchie, and it stars Will Smith, Mina Massoud, Naomi Scott, Marwan Kenzai. Yeah, a lot of other people. Really. There's kind of a massive cast in there with a lot of little cameos and stuff like that. Let me point one thing out. What is the guy's name who played Prince Anders? Billy Magnuson.
Yeah.
He's
great.
He's in the movie for 30 seconds, and he's the funniest thing in the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. I've been watching, I don't know if you ever watched it, but Get Shorty.
Oh, no.
They just put it on Netflix. I heard great things about it.
He's in
Get Shorty.
Game Night.
Yes, he was in
Also,
Game Night.
yeah.
He plays such a really funny, kind of doofusy character.
Yeah.
He's so perfect
funny.
at it. And he's the exact same way in Get Shorty.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, I really like his character in this, but overall, I like him as that kind of actor.
Yeah. He's good. So I really enjoyed him, even though he's not even really in the movie that much. But let me say, going into this, I didn't think the trailers did a very good job promoting this movie.
No, that was one of the most negative, reactive trailers in a while.
Right. So,
especially with the Blue Will Smith thing.
So my perspective going into it, I kind of went in with low expectations, to be honest with you. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
I found way more enjoyment out of it, and I liked the genie way more than I thought I would too. Like I thought Will Smith was okay.
Yeah.
And I was expecting like this, like I don't want to, but I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
At least his portrayal. The movie I thought was okay to better than okay, but it wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. But I did find more enjoyment. I was surprised.
Yeah,
let's just say that.
I'm mixed on this one. This is another one where the critic and the fan perspectives have been very divergent. The fan perspectives have been up in the 90s, and critics have been like bashing on it.
Yeah.
This one I tend to kind of more agree. I think with the critics.
Yeah.
The reason mainly being, if I just have to like take a step back and I say we've got this original film Aladdin, which was a cartoon that came out based upon a story, but this cartoon that came out from Disney a long time ago, and one of my favorite Disney movies is out there. There's a couple that I really like, but this is one of them. Does this movie get the same level as I would put the original Aladdin? I would say not even close.
Yeah.
It's not a bad movie per se. But at the same time, like I wouldn't give it anywhere near the same height of rating. Like this movie, in a couple months from now, I'll probably totally forget that I even saw it.
It is pretty forgettable.
Yeah, and most of the live action, not all, but most of the live action remakes that I've seen with these Disney films have kind of felt that way for me.
Yeah.
There's a number of reasons for that, and again, there's nothing about this film that I could specifically point to and say, now that is just horrendously awful. But there's a lot of little things about the film that just kind of add up to make it just go, ah.
Yeah.
So, and I will say, as well. The average audience score is just the amount of people that overall liked it versus disliked it.
Yep.
And I would say I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I was expecting, like you said.
Cool.
I enjoyed the visual style was pretty fun in a lot of ways, and they were fun, creative with especially a lot of the genie powers.
Yeah.
And the way they kind of made use of that. There was a couple weird moments of like slow motion and fast motion that I really didn't like.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And I know it's a Guy Ritchie thing. That was the other thing that was weird to me. I'm like, Guy Ritchie, like
Just
I would not expect
his
him.
isms in this movie. I didn't think they actually lended to Aladdin, to be honest with you.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I didn't like one of the things that was so great and iconic about the original as well is that the characters were so like tentpole type characters. They were so classic and like it's like that is that. Jafar is that.
I didn't mind Jafar that much either. I think he wasn't.
He wasn't menacing or scary to me at all, and it wasn't necessarily just due to the voice because a lot of people are like, oh, he doesn't sound like Jafar at all, and he doesn't. But he also just didn't. He came across as more of like a suffering, woe is me type character, and not as much an evil, diabolical, do whatever it takes.
For me, I
was
going in like wasn't gonna like him, but I thought he was better than I was anticipating. Same kind of thing with the genie.
In the original, they set up Jafar. I'm going to spoil it because that movie's been out a long time. If you haven't seen it,
it's the same movie. It's just different.
In the original, Jafar's stakes were very clear. He just wanted to be Sultan. He wanted the power. He felt he was deserving of it. He wanted to take it. Whereas in this one, they tried to include these kind of quasi-realistic political aspects, which was like he felt like he had to work for everything that he got. He was born into these rags. He had to work his way up to become this person. And why not, if he's had to do that and become as successful as he has, why not go all the way and become the Sultan? So it makes sense. Like, realistically, he's a guy that had to work his way up, and he was born in a really bad circumstance. So it's like you kind of relate to what he's saying, but then he's doing quasi bad things to accomplish that. So you start going like, well, is he a bad guy? Is he not a bad guy? So it like left me without a real antagonistic character. And then secondarily, the story, it wasn't even, that's the thing that like I kept telling myself, this wasn't Aladdin. It was like Aladdin and Friends. It was so much more about Will Smith's character and Naomi Scott's character and Aladdin and Jafar. Everybody had their own. Sorry, go ahead.
Jasmine's handmaiden.
Yes,
I kind of like that.
I was
though.
cute. I mean, but again, it's like everybody has their own little background and story and thing that they're trying to get to and accomplish. And it was like, it's a more human story, but the reason I enjoyed Aladdin was because it took you, it's like the whole beginning, it's Arabian Nights, you go into this almost like other world, this other environment and everything. And Will Smith, that's how it starts. It's like, I'm going to tell you a tale, but it's more of like a story.
I like that. I like that like full circle at the beginning because I didn't know what that was.
I was fine with that,
Anyway, so let me just say this. So overall, I was surprised. I thought negative. I thought some of the effects were a little weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
With Abu primarily, I had issues with that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The other problem was this is the first time I'll say this about one of these remakes. I felt like they could have leaned in a little heavier to the songs.
Yeah.
The beginning song where he's running through the streets, also A Whole New World, felt really short.
They cut out a lot of content from a lot of the songs. Yeah. It felt like to make room for
other things.
Well, Naomi Scott's character, Jasmine, had her own little musical section in this that wasn't in the original, and I felt like they wanted to make time for that.
I was okay with it, but I think you get with the iconic songs, I feel like they could have leaned into that a little bit more heavily. Same with the intro song, the Arabian Night thing.
They got that's the thing though to me, like they got quasi-political with some of the aspects as far as like, I'm not going to go there, but whenever they force those things into it, especially a movie that I've already seen, it's kind of like, well, you already had source material, which didn't require you to go there. Sorry, what were you going to... I interrupted you to say
No,
that.
You're fine. So I think I would have liked to see more of the song element. I thought Naomi Scott and Mina Masood did really good.
Yeah, they were great.
They're really, really good. Will Smith too, but I think as the main two, Aladdin and Jasmine, really, really good.
Yeah, they felt like there was real chemistry between the two of them. Yeah. That didn't feel manipulated at all. I think the way that their relationship progressed in this one as quickly as it did felt a bit manipulated.
Sure.
Because it went with the same sensibilities of the cartoon, but you've created much deeper characters.
Yeah.
So it's like if they're going to fall in love, you need to create deeper reasons for why, versus you're just hot and here and you're saying the right thing at the right moment.
I did like,
you know?
there's a scene where like the genie's like helping present Aladdin to the princess for the first time. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Talking about jellies and stuff. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Any other thoughts specifically?
Yeah. I wasn't happy with how certain things played out in this one.
Okay.
I wish they'd done more with the original material. I was fine. I liked the overall additions and changes they made to the songs.
Yeah.
I thought that was fine. I mean, I liked the originals a lot, but I'm like, okay, update a little bit, add some Will Smith style. I was fine with that, but I wanted more.
Yeah.
I wanted them to go longer and bigger with the songs.
Yeah.
And then additionally, I wasn't happy with how they kind of forced in deeper character story elements, but then kept the overall very simplistic plot progression of the original movie.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like this weird dichotomy of like, I'm watching a kid's film that's trying to have a lot of depth, and it just was very off-putting.
I gotcha.
And unenjoyable.
So how off-putting was it, Joel?
I'm going to give this one a 73.
Oh.
So C-, yeah.
I'm giving it a 73 also.
Oh, wow. All right.
For different reasons. Probably just because I wasn't expecting, so I gave it a 73. I was thinking going into this movie I was going to give it a D, to be honest.
Yeah, D-.
Yeah. And I liked it a little bit more. I just thought it was a little too familiar, and other than that,
I wish, that's a big thing. I wish they
I'm going to forget it. I guess that's kind of the thing.
I wish they had gone bigger with it. I wish they had gone into more depth of making it more creative and crazy and quirky and kind of original.
Yeah.
Somebody did like a side-by-side photo of like the Will Smith genie that ended up in the movie, the blue one, not his human form, and then like a CG like remake of it that has more of the original like genie-esque bigger jaw and broader shoulders and things like that. And I'm like, that would have been really cool to see that more of a like
it's not like we don't have the technology.
No, and they were doing a lot with him to make him look different. So I don't know. I just wish they'd taken it kind of up like 2 degrees, like boop, boop, just like 2 notches.
I gotcha.
Then it would have been probably a lot more enjoyable for me.
Totally gotcha.
So
all right, yeah, so that's Aladdin for you there. Let's dive into one movie that I got to see, and this is gonna be a real quick thing, because you didn't get to actually see this movie. It's a new Blumhouse release, which is called Ma. Let me just say this, regardless of how good the movie is, Blumhouse is the pinnacle of their like having one of the best business models as far as a film studio is concerned.
Yeah.
This movie is getting like okay to a little better than okay reviews.
Yeah.
On a budget of $5 million, it's already tripled its budget in opening week. They're set. They don't even have. They could pull all their movies from the theater right now and be fine.
Yeah,
So
that's what Blumhouse does well. They take good names and put them with decent to good scripts,
right?
And then create it on the smallest budget possible.
And thrillers and horror movies sell.
Yeah, they do.
Like no other. So
there's a very strong following.
Right. So
people that watch them.
So anyway, this movie specifically, Ma, is a lonely woman befriends a group of teenagers and decides to let them party at her house. Just when the kids think their luck couldn't get any better, things start happening that make them question the intention of their host. Directed by Tate Taylor, written by Scotty Landis, or Lanes, and it's Octavia Spencer, Diana Silvers, Juliette Lewis, McKaylee Miller, Corey Fogelmanis. Interesting last name, Fogelmanis. That's a good one. So this one, I was like, oh, this kind of looks creepy, when I see it. Let me just say right off the bat, it was okay. I was actually a little disappointed by this movie. Okay. Octavia Spencer is fantastic. Best part of the whole movie. Like her psychoticness is just the right amount. And it's one of those movies where you're like, hey, you won an Academy Award. And all of a sudden you're doing this movie.
Yeah.
I bet you got most of that $5 million for the budget, huh? But, I thought she did really, really good. And kind of oddly enough, Luke Evans is in this movie. I didn't even realize that.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, he's actually in this movie. And I don't remember seeing him in any promotional material, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah. You'd think they wouldn't promote that.
So one of the climax of the movie is in the last 12 minutes of the movie. And there's a lot of those scenes in the trailer.
Oh, I hate that.
I was like, why is any of this in the trailer? None of that should be in the trailer.
Yeah.
And, that really bothered me. I was like, because first of all, my problem with trailers is I remember trailers really well. I remember every scene in a trailer, and when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, well, I haven't seen this scene yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's more to go, and I'm subconsciously waiting for that scene to happen.
Yeah.
And then in the last 10 minutes of this movie, I'm like, Well, I haven't seen like these 3 scenes yet, so they got to be coming up soon.
Yeah.
And I wish I didn't remember them like that because I feel like I'd be more surprised a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But the movie was just okay. There was a little bit. I feel, to be honest with you, I feel like they could have taken a little bit a step further. For a rated R film, I think they could have taken it another. It could have gotten a lot like more horrific at the end.
Yeah.
But I felt like they were being tame for some reason. I don't know why. The story was okay. It's really just, it's kind of about bullying in high school. It's really what it's about. And kind of how that stays with people and the lessons learned from that. But I liked all the acting. Acting was great. There was one scene at the beginning that's an exception. That there's an interaction. I was like, that was really weird. That didn't seem like a real interaction.
Yeah.
I don't feel like people talk to each other that way. And then after that, it was great.
Yeah. I think one of the things, this is to kind of go back to one of the points you just made, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah, go for it.
With Blumhouse films, I haven't seen a ton of them, but I think there are, because the budgets are so low, there are occasionally moments where I feel like they might have taken the cheaper route.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
The less expensive route with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that might have been part of it because whenever you have a ton of gore and violence, that's going to require probably special effects.
More, yep.
And that costs money.
Yeah.
So that might have been it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Or they just wanted to go in a very different direction with it. But I don't know.
All the shocking stuff in this, almost all the shocking stuff in this is in the trailer, which is really, I was really upset about that. And it's not the movie's fault. It's a marketing team fault.
Yeah.
But that was disappointing in the movie because none of that was like a surprising thing to me. I did like some of the elements of it though.
Yeah. Like if you want to know a good trailer for me right now, especially for a horror film, It Part 2.
Oh my gosh, that looks so scary.
So effective.
And I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah, it's like you can tell it's kind of just cutting that scene a little bit around, but it's giving you a real sense of the creepiness and the awkward.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then it shows you a little footage from around there. And then additionally, another one that's not necessarily a scary movie, but Joker, we talked about that. It just shows you some clips and then really gives you a sense of the spectacle.
There's
and the feelings you're gonna
no
get
plot points in that movie almost. Right. It's just like these random things that happen and you really don't know how they interconnect or interweave.
Exactly.
But it's a good way to do it. This one, like it's like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had the very final shot of the movie in their trailer.
Right. It's like, what are you doing?
What
guys?
are you thinking?
The worst thing right now for me, and I know we're going to side
it's a side
here,
track,
but Netflix is doing this thing now. I haven't figured out how to turn it off, but
the
like
trailer
plays trailers for shows and movies, and I'm like, I've never seen any of this. I don't want you to default tell me what's going to happen.
I know.
You know, I wish they would turn that off.
It's crazy talk.
It's annoying me. They've ruined a couple different moments of shows for some people that I've gone to watch them with. So
that sucks.
Anyways, what are you going to rate this thing?
I'm going to give it a 68.
Okay. It's a lot lower than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I was disappointed.
It's not really
and it wasn't really scary either. So I felt like it was mismarketed maybe a little bit in that way as well. But it had some like really solid acting and some. There weren't really any good relational moments. I felt like in this movie at all, with the exception of maybe one girl and
her dog.
No,
a magical unicorn
her mom,
dragon. Oh,
but not even really that much because you don't see any resolve. Like the movie just kind of ends.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But for the most part, I mean,
we ran out of budget.
Yeah, so I was disappointed. So maybe it might not be this bad in my mind if I were to review it in a couple months. But to me, I'm going to give it a 68 right now. It could be higher than that later on.
So I'm assuming you're saying don't see it in theaters. Would it be worth a rental maybe? Or not even?
Netflix it. Yeah, I'll wait for Netflix.
Yeah.
Sure.
Does Blumhouse they're just starting to put some of their content on?
I don't know. Maybe. Okay. No, actually, I don't see a lot of their stuff on Netflix, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have Disney Plus soon anyway. It's going to take over the market.
Netflix is going to be looking for more stuff to fill that Disney void. So yeah. Anyways.
So, there's a lot of stuff that it might fly the coop.
Well, anything else with Ma?
No. I haven't seen it. Probably won't. Okay. I love Octavia Spencer, but it's not my thing.
Well, now let me turn it to you, listeners. Have you guys seen any of these movies, whether it be Ma, Aladdin, or Godzilla, King of the Monsters? And let us know. Did you like them? Were they exciting? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? If so, I totally understand why you would disagree with Joel. But
we agreed.
I know.
Our ratings are literally the exact same.
I'm totally kidding. Anyway, so
much for that positivity we talked about at the start.
I know.
Yeah.
Joel, I'd love to encourage you to see it with us.
Oh, I'm going to see
Yes.
it.
Cool.
I don't want to, but I have to. I
You
saw
have
part
to.
one.
I know, but part one was great.
Yeah,
So-
this one actually, that part of the movie looks really freaky, but the trailer doesn't look anywhere near as scary as the first trailer.
No.
For some reason. So
But we'll see. I mean, it's early on. Still got a couple months to go.
Yeah.
But email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Interact with us on social media, which is it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, @realreviewmedia, and then youtube.com/therealreview.
Cool.
You can do all that stuff there. Anything else, Joel?
Two really quick things.
quick things.
One related, one unrelated.
Okay.
One, I didn't mention this, but I thought all of the monster looks to camera in Godzilla were hilarious. There's 3 specific moments where the monster's literally, the camera does like a pan zoom in thing, and the monster goes, huh? And like looks right at the camera.
I didn't notice that. I got to look at it.
So funny. I saw it twice, so I noticed it every time.
Maybe you're looking at it.
So
yeah.
every time it happened, the second time I saw it, I said, look to camera, and he goes, Wham! And he like looks right at the camera. One's with Rodan, and then one's with, 2 are with Rodan, I think, and one's with Godzilla. So look out for that.
Okay.
If you're watching again, check for that. It's the funniest thing ever. And then additionally, secondary, if you haven't had a chance to check the show out, watch Chernobyl. I'm watching it right now.
I heard about it.
Oh my gosh. Such a crazy show.
I heard it's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy that they're taking basically just like an environmental disaster and they're turning it into very like horrific almost.
Yeah.
I've never been so scared of a dark room with nothing in it before as I have been with Chernobyl, because they've created like this. It's almost like the mist. It's like the uranium and the radiation is like a threat, and you can't necessarily see it. It's so good. I don't want to spoil it for you.
That's cool. I want to see it.
Check it out.
I have been hearing a lot of
good
good
visuals
things.
are like ooh at times.
Yeah.
So check it out. Good chance. That's it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, have you seen Chernobyl? I don't know why I'm looking, guys. Right now, I'm looking as if I'm looking at a camera for some reason. So I don't know why I'm doing that. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. Email us. Let us know what's up, what you're most looking forward to for the rest of the summer, and keep cheering on Endgame to beat out Avatar.
Do it.
Yes. Other than that, it's been real.
It's been real.